Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. Quiet Seduction. 8 subtle scents that captivate women. And when it comes to the context of dating, I have never understood the concept of beast mode. If I put beast mode in my title, I'm going to get 1,000 more views than I normally would, but it is the most ridiculous idea. How many people watching this actually believe that if you walk in on a date with a woman and you've got a fragrance with beast mode, 10 to 12 foot projection, that is going to appeal to a woman? Nobody believes that. Nobody that knows anything about fragrances, because fragrances are a subtle thing. They're meant to be subtle. Beast mode longevity, that's different. You want it to last a long time, but ideally, especially on a date, you want the projection to be moderate to low. You want it to be intimate. That's when it really pulls a punch. That's when it really works in a dating scenario. You want her to go home and go, you know, he was kind of funny. He was nice, but boy, he smelled good. It's one of those things at the end of the date where she thinks about, yeah, he smelled really good. He looked after himself. That's what you're going for, and that's what I'm going for today. Fragrance number 1, this is Scandal Le Parfum. Now, Scandal might seem like a strange choice because generally it's thought to be a very strong fragrance and a very sweet fragrance. Perfect candidate to overwhelm, but when you have anything like Parfum or Le Parfum in the name, you're always going to get something that is more mature, more subtle, because the originals tend to have less fragrance oil. That's going to make them less expensive. But as they get more expensive, as there's more fragrance oil, the prices and the people that are targeted are going to be older. They're going to have more money and different tastes. And that is exactly what Scandal does here. Now, the original is very, very sweet, but there's an extra sweet note there. The original has caramel and tonka, whereas this one, Le Parfum, only has tonka. So while they are quite similar in the beginning, there's definitely a lower level of sweetness and an extra amount of freshness in this from the geranium. But that's where they're going to smell the most similar, is early on. But as the fragrance dries down, you're going to get a very different experience. And that experience is hinted at with the color of the bottles. This bottle is the Le Parfum, and it's black. This is the Eau de Toilette. Notice the bottle is gray, it is lighter, and that's what you're going to get. So the beginning is going to be relatively similar, and then with the Le Parfum, as it dries down, it's going to get darker and richer. Less sweet, but darker. You're going to pick up elements of that geranium note that have like rosy nuances. They also have a little bit of an herbal feel, and this is definitely a lot more subtle than the original. Fragrance number 2, this is Elysium by Roja Parfum. And this fragrance is a masterclass in subtlety, and it's a masterclass in detail. It's kind of like a fine wine, like $1,000 bottle of wine. That's what you're dealing with here. So what do I mean by that? Well, starters, they use real ambergris instead of ambroxan, which is an aroma chemical. And that's very, very rare in perfumery. They age the vetiver and the cedar in this fragrance for 3 years, making the transition from the citrus and the aromatic notes to the woods, making that more smoother. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Even the bergamot oil, which is something a pretty mundane note, but they only use the highest quality bergamot oil in this fragrance, and it is a spectacular fragrance on the level of subtlety and detail. Ultimately, though, this is a citrus aromatic, a very smooth one. You've got lemon, lime, bergamot, and grapefruit. The citrus is made a little bit sweeter, just a hint sweeter, with the use of black currant and apple. And that's the part that I like best about it. It also has 6 aromatic notes to complete the whole citrus aromatic thing. And it's just a spectacular fragrance. And it's perfect in many ways as far as projection goes. It's called a Parfum Cologne. So it goes on like an eau de cologne, kind of fresh, but it lasts like a Parfum. 15 to 20% fragrance oil in this. So yeah, you're going to get reasonable projection, but you're going to get extreme longevity, which is very difficult for this type of fragrance, which is a citrus aromatic. Yeah, this one seems perfect. Fragrance number 3, this is Prada L'Homme, and this was created as a deliberate departure from traditional masculine tropes. This was created to be subtle and sophisticated at the same time. And oddly enough, it is a big choice among diplomats, apparently, who like the combination of powdery sophistication and clean smelling at the same time. Most clean fragrances tend to be aquatics, but you don't get the sophisticated element of the powderiness from a traditional aquatic. You do here. So that kind of fits both needs of a diplomat, and it can fit both needs in a dating scenario as well, especially if the woman that you're looking for is looking for a high-status man, a man that has money, a man that has been successful, because it's going to come across as a sophisticated fragrance because of the powdery iris in this. Now, the performance here, though, in terms of longevity and projection, is absolutely perfect for a dating scenario. You're not going to overwhelm anyone. It lasts a long time, 2 to 3 feet of projection. This one is seen as a classic, and for good reason. Fragrance number 4, this is Jazz Club by Maison Margiela, and while not quite as subtle as some of the other fragrances on this list, it's still subtle, but this is a lesson in detail, because not only is there a tobacco note here, there's also a tobacco smoke smell created with the use of cade oil and styrax. So you're getting those two tobacco elements. You're also getting gourmandy rum on purpose, because the key to this fragrance are two things. They wanted to go for something smoky and something sweet at the same time. And that explains why the rum in this, it's not quite as boozy as you're going to get with other alcohol-based notes. It is more gourmandy, because that's what they're going for. And that whole thing even plays out for where you spray it. For instance, if you put it on skin, it's going to come across as sweeter. But if you put it on clothes, it'll last a lot longer, and it feels more smokier, because that's essentially what they're doing. They're going for those two contrasting elements. They pulled it off. This is a fragrance that would definitely work on a date, and I find this is one that I like more and more and more as time goes on. Fragrance number 5 is Ombre Noire by Lalique, and this is one of the more traditional date night fragrances on this list. This and Jazz Club are the most, but you're getting it from a house that doesn't do date night fragrances generally. They're a woody house. That's Lalique, and they tend to be more business-oriented, but this one is definitely date night. But what I like about it is the woody elements in this make it a little bit more subtle than some of the heavy, sweet date night fragrances, because the woodiness kind of limits the projection and thins out the sweetness a bit. So you're going to get a spicy element from the cinnamon and the tobacco. You're going to get a resinous warmth from the myrrh and olibanum. You're going to get some tonka. The mint and the fig leaf last throughout, giving it some definite complexity. You feel a lot of different elements in this. You can notice them at different times. That's not what you normally expect from an inexpensive fragrance. This one is great on a date. Fragrance number 6, this is Versace's The Dreamer, and this is one of the biggest risks ever taken in perfumery by far. And that was because Gianni Versace was heavily involved in this. I don't think he was the creative director, but he wanted something more sophisticated than the original Amal, which was something of a phenomenon in 1995. And Versace came along and he's like, okay, we're going to do something similar, but we're going to do it in a different way. And the way that he did it, I mean, it's hard to believe he would even consider it, given the fact that it was 1996, over 30 years ago, and that this has as much iris as anything that you're going to get these days. And there are still a large segment of the male population that don't want to have anything to do with floral fragrances, and they don't want to have anything to do with iris because they see it as feminine. Try doing that 30 years ago. That was a really bold move. So there is a lot of iris in this, but there's also flax, tobacco blossom, and lily, which are 3 other floral notes. And the aromatic notes in this, kind of weird. Juniper, artemisia, and tarragon, those are aromatic notes you don't normally use. There's a little bit of amber in the base, which might be the only normal thing about this fragrance, because boy, oh boy, I mean, it would be strange today, but yeah, back then it was ridiculous. However, it does have a strong resemblance in a more subtle, sophisticated way to the original Amal, and that was essentially Versace's motivation, pulled it off. Fragrance number 7, this is Creed's original Santal, and I strongly believe that this is the most underrated Creed on the market. And the reason it's underrated is because Creed took a page right out of all houses, Mont Blanc's house, and they grabbed kind of the DNA of Mont Blanc Individuel and made it more sophisticated and classy. And they really did pull it off, because For all it's worth, I mean, this is seen as a sandalwood fragrance. This is really more of a sweet fragrance than anything else. But this is really a sandalwood fragrance, very powdery, very sophisticated, and just beautiful. It also has lavender, juniper berries, tonka, and ginger. And so you got that mildly sweet tonka as compared to the vanilla sweet in here. There's got a lot of aromatic notes in this that surround the sandalwood and the powderiness. It's just really, really nice. The performance, as you would expect from a Creed, is exceptional. And again, though, because of the amount of woods in here, the projection is subtle, which is what we're going for. Finally, we have Stash SJP by Sarah Jessica Parker. And oddly enough, this is a unisex fragrance that I happen to believe is the most masculine fragrance on this list, because this is a woody fragrance, and it's a very woody fragrance. So you get a lot here of Masoya wood, which is not often talked about in perfumery, not often used, but it is a creamy kind of wood. There's also a lot of cedar and vetiver in this as well. So yeah, woods are the main focus. It does have some aromatic qualities. There is some sage in this, but what I really like about it as a relatively inexpensive fragrance is you're going to get a little bit of black pepper and olibanum. And anytime you have a little hint of freshness that kind of rises above the fragrance, it gives it a feeling of sophistication. It gives it a feeling of being an expensive fragrance. You definitely get that here, especially early on. It kind of dies down after a while, but very interesting, very different. Surprisingly inexpensive. I totally think this would work on a date. And again, I just find it weird. You know, this is seen as unisex. Guys won't even buy this because it's from Sarah Jessica Parker, and yet it is very masculine. Anyway, yeah, to me, subtlety is the key in dating. When it comes to fragrances especially. I mean, you don't want to blow anyone away. And I mean, that would be the last thing that I would do. So yeah, I tried to mix up a dating video a little bit here. Going for a subtlety look. But yeah, I won't get the same views because I didn't have beast mode in the title. It's crazy business. Anyway, thanks for watching.